Good Sunday morning, Iowa. It's Dr. Rick Gotting. Thank you again for spending some time with me here today. So, I've talked about for a long time that I've been on the carnivore diet, and I actually started the lion diet on January 3rd, or January 1st, I should say. January 3rd was my 1-year anniversary on the carnivore diet, which is meat, eggs, and cheese. And I also have heavy cream in my coffee. And butter. And that's pretty well it. So I've lost 50 pounds in the last year. I know I've gained about 10 pounds of muscle because I can just kind of see it, feel it, and all that. And so December and basically the Thanksgiving to Christmas corridor was not perfect. I took some time home, spent some time with my family. And there were some imperfections, and actually New Year's Eve, I ended up eating a Cubano sandwich, which if you don't know is just kind of like a big long sandwich with ham and cheese and all kinds of stuff. And there's a little market that we go to that makes great ones. So I had that New Year's Eve, and that was it. I mean, that was my only, I didn't go any crazier, but, I had a little bit around Thanksgiving and here and there. So for January, I wanted to start what's called the lion diet. So I only eat ruminant meat, which is meat from animals, basically land mammals that eat grass. So you can have lamb, you can have sheep, deer, cattle, camels, I guess if you run into some camel meat somewhere. But that's pretty much it. And, so I feel real good because it's now it's sort of that elimination diet. I've gotten back to where it's a real strong elimination of getting everything else out. Well, last Saturday, we had some friends in town from Oklahoma, where my mom lives and my grandma lives. Oh, that's another thing. I had chicken gizzards with my grandma at the truck stop when I went down to see her over Thanksgiving. So, we kind of had like I said, a little bit, about a month there where it was pretty bad. But listen, I've been eating chicken gizzards at that same truck stop with my grandma since I was 7. So that's what we did. She's 98, and I just felt like we should have our traditional meal. So I had some friends come up from Oklahoma this last weekend, and they wanted to come visit, and they were very excited about trying out skiing and snowboarding because they never had, because Oklahoma, it doesn't really get cold enough to really do any snowboarding or skiing ever. And they had never been to Colorado or anything like that. So we took them. The girl is my oldest daughter's age and the boy is my youngest daughter's age. The boy and my oldest daughter snowboarded, and the girl and my youngest daughter skied. Now my kids are relatively experienced, but they were waiting around with them and helping them out. So I helped out the girl who was visiting. Sama is her name. I helped Sama come down the hill on the bunny hill, and I went up and down that bunny hill at least 15 times, jogging up and running backwards down, or walking up fast and walking backwards fast down. And there's no way in the world I could have done that a year ago. 50 pounds heavier and in much worse shape. So I'm at 54. I'm going to turn 55 this year. I'm probably healthier and in better shape than I've been since I was in my 30s. And I just feel like I'm aging in reverse. Now, it's not just been the diet, but the diet is the linchpin, because I've always exercised, but the diet has really shifted the whole paradigm. And so, the exercise I've done, I've been doing sprints, hill sprints, actually, and it just seemed that it worked out perfectly. And it was so exciting because I wasn't even really winded at the top of that bunny hill at Seven Oaks. And honestly, it really hit me. I did some snowboarding myself. And so she was getting a lesson, and then I went and did some snowboard runs, and I came back and I ran up and down that hill a ton of times. And it was so exciting. And that was Saturday. And then yesterday, which was Sunday, we kind of relaxed a little bit. I actually had to go into the hospital and do an urgent surgery. And then today is Monday. I'm recording on Monday, of course. And man, I just feel great. Now, it's a new year, and I'm excited about the challenges and promises of the new year. And I had a great morning in the clinic. I'm here at lunchtime at the radio station recording. I had a great morning in clinic with some, just a bunch of patients who are doing really well. And that always just really makes my day. I had one patient in particular who came to me after having had surgery somewhere else and was just really not doing well. And I did a surgery on him a couple of weeks ago, and he's super duper happy. And that's honestly, that's what I live for. I live for a lot of things. I live for my family and, of course, and my faith. But right after that is going into the office and seeing patients who are having great results. And that's like where everything comes together for me. That's the confluence of all of everything that I've ever done and ever want to do. And so I am right in the middle of having absolutely fantastic day here on a very cold but sunny day in the new year, which is full of promise. So this time of year is there's a little bit of a dichotomy between the hope and the fact that the days are getting longer, and it's 8 weeks till March. However, it's also the time when the Christmas lights come down and the days are still really short and it gets bitter cold. So it's kind of that dichotomous time until the spring comes around. But I'm just loving it because I am just excited about. So last year, this time, look in the mirror, look at how my life is. And this year, this time, it's just day and night difference. And why I'm telling you all this is not just to share my enthusiasm, is to say you can do it too. Now, it's all degrees, right? If you're 80, you may not be running up and down the bunny hill a year from now, but if you change your diet, and again, I always say that the line diet, the carnivore diet works well for me. Some people do great with other things. Some people do great with the Mediterranean diet, which I like because it's a very anti-inflammatory diet. I'm not one of these people who's such a believer in the carnivore diet. There are some guys out there on YouTube that say, oh, you should never eat plants. I don't agree with that necessarily, but there is something to what they say insofar as plants have toxins in them that are trying to get animals not to eat them. And then other plants have fruits that have lots of sugar because they're trying to get the animals to eat them. Neither one of those things are really great. People don't realize, they think, oh, it's a plant. Well, a banana has 5 spoons full of sugar in a banana, equivalent fructose. And there's not a tremendous difference between fructose and glucose. So the difference between eating a banana and eating a candy bar is not that great. And so I think we're in a time where we're all trying to understand better the relationship between the diet that Americans are eating and the health of Americans. And there's nothing more important than your health. And so we see a country where only some ridiculously low number of military age people in this country are fit enough to serve. And it's down. I think it's less than 50%. I think it's like 30% of Americans in the prime age group, so 18 to 30, are healthy enough to join the military. And I think that we have to totally rethink our diets. I walked into Hy-Vee yesterday to buy some turkey bacon for our friends for the morning, and I walked through the middle aisle, and it's just this great big wide aisle full of candy and just sugary everything. And the next aisle over is sugary sodas and chips, and the next aisle over, we got to rethink this. We can do this. You can do this. You can make yourself healthier. You just have to figure out a plan and execute it. And I don't care how old you are or what kind of medical problems you have. You can make the biggest impact with your health by fixing your diet and fixing the fact that you're not exercising if you're not. And like I've always said, I highly, highly, highly recommend resistance training, which in English translates into weightlifting. does not have to be anything significant. My mom says she's going to start weightlifting. She's going to get a 2-pound weight or go down and join a gym and just start doing a little bit of resistance training because it makes a big difference. The more muscle mass you have, the healthier your body is, full stop. Muscle mass in relationship to where your body is with fat. So you basically have fat, muscle, and bone, and then the rest of your organs, right? That's what makes up your body. The better ratio of muscle to fat you can have, the healthier you are. That's just the end of it, unless you get turned into, big bodybuilder. But that's not who's probably listening to this program right now. You listening right now, can be healthier a year from now. And I'm going to guess, like me, I can be healthier a year from now too. I'm going to guess there's not a lot of people out there who are listening to this say, man, I'm as healthy as I could possibly be. There's no way I could improve my health. Beginning of the year, great time. You want to talk to a dietitian or your doctor or find out, what an avenue is. But don't just say, I'm going to eat a little less and exercise more. That's not a plan. That's not a plan. I'm going to start on February 1st the Mediterranean diet, and I'm going to walk twice a week and lift some weights twice a week. That is a plan. And so I just encourage people. I just feel so darn good. And I want so much to share that with everybody, and especially my patients, because orthopedics is, every field of medicine is about making people healthier, right? That's the whole idea. Otherwise, what are we doing? But orthopedics is about really restoring function and getting out there and living life. It's about getting a knee replacement and then going and hiking the 14ers in Colorado, which I had a patient probably 8 years ago. He came to me and he said, I want my knees replaced. And I said, you got to lose 100 pounds. And he said, how am I going to lose 100 pounds? And at that time, I didn't know. I said, talk to your doctor, whatever you got to do. I just didn't really have anything to tell him. And so he went and he did this thing, the supervised diet program. And he came back a year later and 100 pounds down, and we did his knees. And 6 months later, he sent me pictures, and he was hiking they call them the 14ers. They're the 14,000-foot peaks in Colorado. And he wasn't rock climbing. He was, doing, kind of walking up the walkways that they have. But, that's just a dramatic, life-altering change. And so I've always been interested in helping my patients achieve that. And if you're not healthy, then the work I do in the operating room is less beneficial to you and is more difficult to do and get a good result. Here's something that people probably don't even realize. There is a known relationship between having high cholesterol and having rotator cuff tears. Now, I don't know, does that mean high cholesterol causes rotator cuff tears? We don't know that. We do know that people with rotator cuff tears tend to have higher cholesterol. So now, and there's a great debate right now about whether high cholesterol necessarily is bad for you. That's a debate that you couldn't even have 10 years ago that now seems to be raging. I'm not 100% sure about all that. What I do know is that the healthier your diet is, the fewer of all of the ingredients that have long names with lots of letters that even I have a hard time pronouncing, those aren't good for you. And eating less of that and more whole foods is just healthier. And so what I want to do is inspire people to make positive, healthy changes and then also help them from the surgical perspective. And in my case, I had the Regen-N10 patch on my shoulder. And this is a patch I've talked about. It's a cow Achilles tendon that has been processed to allow just the collagen, which is the material that the tendon itself is made of. The collagen remains intact, but all of the DNA and everything is out of it. So what we do is we use it in different types of operations. The operation that I had, because I had a partial thickness rotator cuff tear. So we talked about this many times. The rotator cuff can tear a little bit, fraying like a rope. It can tear a little bit more. And so that would be a partial thickness tear where it's kind of fraying, sort of like a rope is coming apart, but it's intact. There's no hole in it. And once again, the rotator cuff are the 4 tendons that are deep inside the shoulder that move the shoulder around. And so you can have a partial thickness tear, which I had. You can have a full thickness tear that's small, which we typically will fix with an anchor that is sort of like a tent stake that goes into the bone, and then we tie the tendon down to the bone. And you can have a very large tear, which we use multiple anchors tying it down. And then you can have what we call a massive tear, and that is the technical term for it that the doctors would use, is a massive tear, and it's usually over 5 centimeters, which is a couple inches. And the rotator cuff, the supraspinatus tendon, which is the top tendon there, is only about that wide. So essentially the top tendon of the rotator cuff is completely gone, and then you have to use one of two. You can do a reverse total shoulder replacement, or you can do a superior capsular reconstruction where we use another type of graft from a human and we put it from the top of the ball to the top of the socket. So the Regenin-10 is used in either the smallest type of partial tear or the large type of tear that's fixable but not perfect. And so when I had mine, it prevented me from doing the resistance exercises that have been such a key part of my health recovery. So my health recovery kind of went like this. 5 years ago, I had the Regenin-10 done, and then I was able to get back in the gym, and I had been out of the gym for about a year because I've always lifted weights. I wrestled in high school. I played football. I surfed. After that, for going around the world surfing and living in Hawaii and actually New York. There's good surf in New York. I lived right on the beach outside of New York City, and also lived in Australia for a year. So I was surfing for decades. But I was also lifting weights at the time. So I had always lifted weights. Well, I got to the point where I couldn't. So I had the Regenin-10 patch placed, and then it was 48 hours in a sling, and then I got out of the sling and started my rehab. It took about 4 months to finally come good, where I could really say, man, my shoulder is way better. And then I got back in the gym. That was the first key part of my health recovery. And this took years. So after that, I got back in the gym, and I was kind of trying to fix my diet. I would be sometimes keto, sometimes not keto. I'm talking about the ketogenic diet and sort of the Atkins diet sort of thing. Then I found out a couple years ago I had sleep apnea, which I finally went and got, and I've talked about that a million times. If you snore or you're tired all the time and you're over 40, get checked for sleep apnea. Or at least talk to your doctor about it. So I got my CPAP machine, and then I was doing better. During the week I would do keto. I was making my own dressing out of red wine vinegar and olive oil, and I'd have grilled salmon or chicken on a salad every night. But then on the weekends, I would end up eating a little bit of spaghetti or pizza or whatever. So I had decided a year ago to go to the carnivore diet, and that really just turned everything. And that's how I ended up running up and down the bunny hill 15 times in the middle of snowboarding at 54 and feeling like I could tackle anything. So the Regenin-10 and the diet worked together for me to restore my health completely. Now, the other uses for the Regenin-10, if you have a very big, and again, this is the Regenin-10 is that patch made of the cow Achilles tendon. The 3 ways that I will use it is in a tear that's small and not all the way through, like I had, or a huge tear that I'm able to fix, but I'm not very comfortable with what the tissue looks like. I go ahead and put it on there after I fix the cuff, and that way it thickens the cuff up. It actually adds a couple of millimeters to the thickness of your rotator cuff, which is only 5 or so millimeters anyway. So adding two to it is very helpful. And then the other way I do it is I typically will put it on a total shoulder, because almost everybody with a total shoulder has, which we do for arthritis. You do a shoulder replacement for arthritis, like you do a knee replacement or a hip replacements for arthritis, which is the breakdown of the cartilage on the joint surface. So when I do a shoulder replacement, I typically am going to end up seeing a significant partial rotator cuff tear, and I'm going to put the Regenin-10 patch on there so that it thickens it up, and that patient then doesn't, 10 years from now, after they've had their good total shoulder outcome, then their rotator cuff tears, and that messes everything up. So I'm just super excited about how this has worked out for me. And it would not have been possible. I could have done the old-fashioned way of doing it on my shoulder, but I would have had to take probably 8 weeks off of work. And man, like a lot of people, 8 weeks off of work would have been pretty painful for me. And so that's what's great about the Regeniten. If you have a partial thickness tear, you're out of the sling in 48 hours. I was back in the operating room in 10 days. And, not everybody's a candidate for that. It depends on how big the tear is. But it's interesting because I'm excited that I'm living and I don't want to say advice that I'm giving, but I'm living the information that I'm giving on the show here. I've been to doctors previously or seen some of my colleagues and even been there myself, I guess. Well, I will say that when I was at my heaviest and at my unhealthiest, I wasn't really talking much about that type of stuff. I was just saying, oh, okay, you have knee arthritis. Let's go ahead and, do what we need to do. We can give you injections. Eventually we can replace your knee. Now I'm saying, hey, let's fix you. Let's take this opportunity where you have come to me and I'm a physician. Let's take this as an opportunity to fix your entire health. Let's not just focus in on that knee. And so I've done it to myself too. And then I've seen colleagues in the past who, when I was a resident, we had a cardiologist at our hospital who was obese and smoked. And I was like, how do you sit in your office telling these people to be healthy and you look like that and you smoke? And he just like, he didn't care. But anyway, and I'm not knocking, he's still helping lots of people. He's a good guy, and then this was 20 years ago in New York, so nobody around here. But I'm excited about the new year, the new opportunities for health, for all my patients, for everybody that listens. And I'm just excited to be a part of it. And I'm really glad that you guys spend some time with me here doing it. With that, I'll be back next week with some more, and you have a blessed week, Iowa.